Welcome back to Senior Benefits Insider. I'm really glad you're here with me today. Take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's talk through this together, calmly and clearly, like we always do here. If you're living on Social Security, SSI, SSDI, or any kind of fixed income, what I'm about to share is important, and I want you to hear it without stress, without hype, and without confusion. Here's the headline you may not have seen on the evening news. At approximately 2:00 a.m., a major financial decision quietly moved from speculation to execution. The White House confirmed a revised structure for the long-discussed $2,000 tariff dividend, and this confirmation didn't come with flashing lights or a prime-time press conference. It came through internal Treasury notifications, the kind that only appear when something has already been approved and is now being put into motion. And for seniors, especially those over 60 living on fixed incomes, this moment matters far more than the headlines suggest. When news breaks this late at night, it's usually not about attention. It's about action. And today, that action could affect your household in a very real, very personal way. Now, before we go any further, let me slow this down. My name is James, and for more than a decade I've helped American seniors protect their savings, understand their benefits, and make confident financial decisions after 60. I know how overwhelming late-night financial headlines can feel, especially when big numbers get thrown around with very few answers. So let me promise you this. We're going to walk through exactly what just happened, what it means, and what you should realistically expect, step by step, without politics and without panic. You don't need to rush. You just need good information. What makes this 2 a.m. confirmation so unusual isn't just the timing. It's the way it happened. This decision didn't arrive with a public announcement because it didn't need one. According to Treasury sources, the approval came after a late review of updated economic data. Once that review was complete, the program shifted immediately from discussion to execution. In plain terms, that means the framework is no longer being debated. It's being implemented. Earlier headlines around this program focused mostly on working households affected by tariffs. But the internal documents released overnight tell a different story, one that matters deeply for retirees. The structure was quietly adjusted, and seniors living on fixed incomes were moved much closer to the front of the line. That's not speculation. That's policy. So let's talk about what this $2,000 tariff dividend actually is, and why it's different from the stimulus checks many of us remember. At its core, this program is funded by revenue already collected through import tariffs. These are taxes paid on goods coming into the United States. The key difference here is that this money is not coming from a new spending bill, and it does not require Congress to pass new legislation. Treasury already has the funds. Once eligibility categories are finalized, they have the authority to move forward. That's why this late-night confirmation carries real weight. It wasn't a promise. It was a green light. For seniors, that distinction matters. Programs that don't rely on new legislation tend to move faster and involve fewer hurdles. And because many retirees already have their income and benefit information on file with the Social Security Administration and the IRS, verification can be simpler. That's one reason this update is drawing so much quiet attention behind the scenes. Another reason is inflation. Rising food prices, higher utility bills, increasing rent, and growing medical costs have placed enormous pressure on seniors who rely almost entirely on Social Security, SSI, or SSDI. Unlike working households, retirees can't increase their income when prices rise. That reality wasn't fully reflected in the original design of this program. Overnight, that changed. What we're seeing now isn't just confirmation of a payment. It's a shift in priority. Seniors are no longer being treated as an afterthought. Internal Treasury language makes it clear that households with limited purchasing power should not be left behind. That single principle triggered a quiet restructuring of eligibility, and it changed everything. If you've ever felt like financial relief always arrives too late for retirees, this update deserves your full attention. Here's why this matters so much. Inflation does not affect everyone equally. When prices rise, working households often have at least some ability to adjust over time. They may change jobs, work more hours, or eventually see wages increase. Seniors living on fixed incomes don't have those options. When grocery bills go up, when electricity or heating costs climb, when rent increases, or prescriptions cost more, there is no extra paycheck coming. Every dollar matters more. Treasury's late-night data review finally reflected that truth in a way that could not be ignored. Internal reports showed older Americans, especially those relying primarily on Social Security, SSI, or SSDI, absorbing price increases month after month with no real relief. That pressure builds quietly, and for many seniors, it has reached a breaking point. This is why the update feels different. It's not just about money. It's about acknowledgement. It's about recognizing that fixed-income households feel inflation first and hardest, even when the broader economy looks stable on paper. I've spoken with countless retirees who tell me the same thing. They budget carefully. They don't overspend. They plan ahead. And still, they feel like they're falling behind. That brings us to the most significant part of this update, something that didn't appear in public headlines but may have the biggest impact for retirees. Low-income seniors were quietly moved into a new priority category. This wasn't symbolic. Treasury created a revised eligibility framework that places seniors with fixed or limited incomes much closer to the front of the review process. In practical terms, if your primary income comes from Social Security, SSI, or SSDI, your eligibility profile looks very different today than it did just days ago. Seniors are no longer grouped loosely with the general population. They are being evaluated as a distinct category with specific vulnerabilities taken into account. What changed was not the size of the payment, but the order in which households are reviewed and approved. Treasury analysts were instructed to rescore eligibility based on purchasing power and income stability. Seniors scored high in this review not because they earn more, but because their income does not change when costs rise. That single factor pushed many retirees forward in the process. Priority status matters because it affects timing. It affects how quickly eligibility is reviewed, how much verification is required, and how soon approvals can move forward once distribution begins. Seniors whose income and benefit information already exists within federal systems are considered easier to verify. That reduces delays and lowers the chance of being pushed into later payment waves. Now, let's address one of the biggest questions I'm hearing. Do you need to apply? For most seniors, the answer is no. Under updated Treasury guidance, eligibility reviews are being handled automatically using information already on file with the SSA and IRS. If your income comes primarily from federal benefits, your records are already there. That means no applications, no forms, and no rushing to sign up somewhere online. However, if you've recently moved, changed banks, or updated direct deposit information, you may be asked to confirm details through an official portal. Those notices are legitimate, and responding promptly helps avoid delays. It's also important to know what does not disqualify you. Not working does not hurt you. Not filing taxes recently does not automatically push you to the back of the line. In fact, seniors who rely solely on federal benefits are often easier to verify. Another concern I hear often is whether receiving this payment could affect Social Security, SSI, or SSDI benefits. According to Treasury and SSA guidance, the answer is no. This payment is not classified as income and does not reduce your monthly benefits or trigger reviews. For SSI recipients, it is not counted as income for eligibility purposes. The practical advice here is simple. Make sure your information is up to date. Check your My Social Security and IRS accounts if you can. Stay alert for official notices, and ignore anyone who contacts you by phone, text, or email asking for personal information. That will always be a scam. So let me bring this home for you. This update doesn't solve every financial challenge seniors face, but it does represent something meaningful. It shows that fixed-income households are being seen and accounted for in real policy decisions. Quietly, but decisively, seniors were moved forward. If this explanation helped you feel more confident and less uncertain, I'm really glad. And if you feel comfortable, share your thoughts in the comments. What's one financial lesson you wish you'd learned earlier in life? Your experience could help another senior feel less alone. And before you go, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe, and stay right here with Senior Benefits Insider. I'm here to keep you informed, protected, and prepared for whatever comes next. Thank you for trusting me with your time, and I'll see you again very soon.